Have you ever noticed how the more you desperately try to explain your feelings to a man, the further he retreats into that cold, maddening silence? You type out paragraphs of pure emotion, you try to build a bridge of communication, and yet you are left staring at a glowing screen on a Friday night, feeling utterly abandoned and entirely invisible. Let me give you the brutal, counterintuitive truth that the polite relationship matrix is terrified to teach you. Starving him of your words is the only way to finally be heard. Today, we are dismantling the good girl advice that leaves you crying over a lukewarm cup of tea. You are about to master the art of emotional hacking. I am going to reveal 4 silent, dark feminine gestures that completely bypass his logical brain and short-circuit his nervous system. Stick with me, and by the end of this video, you will never have to beg for a man's attention again. He will be the one hopelessly addicted to the sheer power of your silence. Let us begin, shall we? You have been fed a rather pathetic lie by the mainstream dating industry, haven't you? The magazines and self-help gurus insist that to win a man's heart, you must be a beacon of perpetual sunshine, smiling warmly at his every mediocre joke. They want you to behave like an overly enthusiastic golden retriever, eager to please and desperately accessible. Let me be brutally honest. Walking around with a permanent, spontaneous grin doesn't make you alluring. It makes you entirely predictable and, frankly, a bit cheap. We operate on a different frequency. Welcome to the concept of the conditioned smile, where your facial expressions are treated as a highly exclusive currency. Your smile is not your default state. It is a meticulously calculated reward. Think about it logically. If you distribute 50-pound notes to every passing stranger on the street, the money loses its value, and people stop respecting the gesture. The exact same principle applies to your validation. When you give it away for free, he immediately stops working to earn it. A true sovereign of her own emotions maintains a baseline expression that is calm, unreadable, and perhaps just a fraction glacial. When you sit across from him, do not nod frantically like a dashboard bobblehead simply to comfort his fragile ego. Let the silence stretch. Let him feel the slight, necessary discomfort of not knowing exactly where he stands with you. This isn't about being needlessly cruel. It's about establishing an unspoken standard that demands he actually brings something of substance to the table. So, how do we deploy this psychological weapon? You wait. You observe him from behind that poised, neutral mask until he does something genuinely impressive. Perhaps he articulates a remarkably intelligent thought or demonstrates undeniable chivalry. In that precise moment, and not a single second before, you let a slow, subtle smile touch the corners of your mouth. It should be a fleeting glimpse of warmth in an otherwise cool demeanor, like sunlight breaking through a heavy London fog. The psychological effect of this stark contrast is absolutely devastating to his nervous system. You trigger a massive sudden dopamine spike in his brain, transforming a casual date into a high-stakes psychological game where he is desperate for your approval. He will spend the remainder of the evening actively trying to replicate whatever he just did to earn that rare, intoxicating reward. Yet withholding your smile is merely the first layer of the strategy. Wait until you realize what happens when you alter the very nature of how you look at him. The Matrix tells you that building intimacy requires gazing at him with wide-eyed, undivided attention, as if he is the most fascinating creature to ever walk the earth. They instruct you to look at him with the unconditional admiration of a devoted fan at a rock concert. Let me spare you the inevitable heartache. Men do not fall in love with their fans. They simply take them for granted. Looking at him with constant starry-eyed wonder does nothing but inflate his ego to bursting point, quietly placing you in a position of passive submission. We, however, are not here to stroke his vanity. Enter the realm of the silent evaluation. A true high-value woman observes a man not with desperate adoration, but with the calculating, piercing gaze of someone reading the very architecture of his soul. Imagine a seasoned art collector examining a painting. You are not merely admiring the surface colors, you are searching for the hidden brushstrokes and the underlying flaws. Your eyes must communicate a quiet, unnerving intelligence, a silent assessment that leaves him wondering exactly what secrets you are unearthing. Let us put this into a practical scenario. Picture yourselves at a crowded dinner table or a dimly lit cocktail bar. He momentarily glances away to order a drink or perhaps check his watch. You take that precise moment to fix your gaze heavily upon him, remaining completely still. When he inevitably turns back and catches you studying him, the common, predictable instinct is to immediately look down or flutter your eyelashes in sheer embarrassment, terrified of being caught in the act. Do not dare look away. Instead, when his eyes meet yours, you hold that heavy, penetrating eye contact for just a fraction of a second longer than is socially comfortable. Then and only then do you offer a remarkably faint, almost imperceptible smirk before gracefully turning your attention back to your wine glass. It is the visual equivalent of whispering, "I see right through your charming facade," without uttering a single syllable. The effect this dark psychology technique has on the male psyche is utterly profound. He will not feel that warm, fuzzy illusion of being loved or comforted. Instead, he will feel entirely exposed, deliciously intimidated, and knocked completely off balance. His ego, so accustomed to easy, unearned validation, will instantly become obsessed with this newfound vulnerability and his total inability to read your mind. He will be so intensely preoccupied with what you are thinking that he will never anticipate the devastating physical shock you are about to deliver next. The mainstream narrative incessantly peddles the idea that physical contact should be a continuous, reassuring stream of affection. They advise you to linger your hand on his arm or gently stroke his shoulder, to weave a cozy, comfortable blanket of connection. I must advise you to abandon this thoroughly maternal approach immediately. Using touch to constantly comfort a man merely signals that your physical boundaries are entirely porous and easily accessible. You cease being a tantalizing enigma and instead become a human security blanket, draining the interaction of any necessary friction. A sovereign understands that her physical touch is not a therapeutic tool to soothe his anxieties, but rather a highly volatile instrument of psychological control. Our rule is ruthlessly simple. Your touch should never serve as a soothing balm. It must operate as a sudden, sharp injection of pure adrenaline. You are not sitting opposite him to make him feel safely swaddled. You are there to make his pulse race and his focus sharpen. We refer to this calculated maneuver as the phantom touch, a technique designed to entirely bypass his logic and hack his primal instincts. To properly deploy the phantom touch, you must master the delicate art of the sudden invasion followed by an immediate, unapologetic retreat. Imagine you are standing together, perhaps waiting for a taxi on a brisk London evening. Without warning, you step deeply into his personal space, close enough that he is enveloped by the scent of your perfume, and swiftly adjust the lapel of his coat or brush a piece of lint from his shoulder. It is a fleeting touch, executed with brisk, almost clinical precision, lasting no more than a second or two. The The true devastation of this technique, however, lies in the precise millisecond the physical contact ends. The moment you have ignited that chemical spark, you must physically step back, instantly re-establishing a cool, definitive boundary. You withdraw your warmth entirely, snapping back to your poised, untouchable posture before his nervous system can even formulate a response. You grant him an intoxicating, microscopic dose of your physical intimacy, only to ruthlessly snatch it away the moment he attempts to reciprocate. This brutal, calculated deprivation plunges the male brain into an immediate and desperate state of physical withdrawal. The sudden, jarring absence of your warmth will leave him hyper-aware of the physical space between you, turning him into an addict craving his next elusive fix. He will spend the remainder of the evening subtly repositioning himself, agonizing over how to naturally recreate that fleeting spark. Yet, whilst his physical body is distracted by this sudden withdrawal, his mind is entirely unprepared for the chilling display of intellectual dominance you are about to unleash. The romantic matrix insists that remembering the trivial details of his life is the ultimate proof of your devotion. They advise you to memorize his favorite sports team or his precise coffee order, behaving less like a high-value woman and more like an eager personal assistant desperate for a promotion. Let us dispense with this sentimental nonsense. In the realm of emotional hacking, your memory is not a warm blanket of affection, it is a meticulously sharpened blade. Welcome to your final psychological weapon, the glacial archive. Our rule dictates that recalling an obscure fact he mentioned weeks ago is never a declaration of love. Rather, it is a chilling demonstration of pure, unadulterated power. When you effortlessly retrieve a tiny fragment of his life from your mental vault, you are not trying to be sweet, you are proving that your perception is dangerously sharp and that absolutely nothing escapes your calculating gaze. How do we execute this in reality? Imagine you are having dinner, and he begins telling a slightly embellished story to impress you. Instead of nodding along blindly, casually interrupt to correct a minor detail, using a throwaway comment he made on your very first date. You deliver this correction with absolute coldness, taking a slow sip of your gin and tonic, completely unfazed. You do not smile, you merely present the data. The dark psychology hidden within this gesture communicates a terrifying subtext to the male ego. I see absolutely everything, and you cannot lie to me. By wielding his own words with such glacial precision, you violently strip away any illusion that he can play foolish games. He suddenly realizes he is sitting across from a woman whose intellect requires him to be entirely honest, simply because she is far too observant to be fooled. This revelation forces an immediate and drastic behavioral shift. Feeling the heavy weight of your glacial archive, he will instinctively elevate his own standards, carefully policing his words and actions out of a deep-seated fear of disappointing you. He is now operating entirely within your psychological framework. Yet, understanding these gestures is merely the foundation. The true mastery lies in knowing exactly how to weaponize this knowledge from the very first second he lays eyes on you. So, my darling strategists, I leave you with this rather provocative question. Which of these 4 dark feminine micro-gestures are you going to test on your very next date to watch a man entirely melt in a puddle of confusion and desire? Will it be the conditioned smile, the silent evaluation, the phantom touch, or the glacial archive? Tell me your weapon of choice in the comments below. I read every single one of them. If you are finally ready to stop playing the predictable victim and start holding the absolute power in your dynamic, it is time to elevate your strategy. Subscribe to Destiny's Decree right now and ensure you turn on those notifications. Join our exclusive inner circle and let us master the elegant, unspoken psychology of relationships together. Until next time, stay utterly untouchable.